There are moments in life where your heart is filled to the brim with love and hope, and you're entirely unaware you're walking straight into hell. That was me, a few days ago, standing at Gate B29 of Chicago O'Hare with two kids clutching my hands and a bouquet of sunflowers tucked awkwardly under my arm. One of the stems jabbed my ribs every time I shifted. The TSA agent had given me a knowing smirk earlier when I fumbled with the stuffed bear and Max's backpack while trying to scan my boarding pass. Surprising the wife, huh? He asked, glancing at the flowers. Yeah, I'd said, trying not to sound as nervous as I felt. She's in San Diego for a conference. Kids, and I thought we'd surprise her. He nodded with a smile and waved us through. What I didn't know, was that I wasn't the only surprise brewing. Max, my 10-year-old, had earbuds stuffed in his ears and his face glued to his Nintendo Switch. Ellie, our 6-year-old, leaned sleepily against my side, the top of her head nestled just beneath my chin. She clutched her own surprise for Mommy, a tiny pink stuffed elephant with a bow tie and sparkles in its stitched eyes. Dana, my wife, had sent photos from her hotel suite just 2 nights ago. She looked stunning in the shots, business casual, hair tucked behind one ear, makeup soft and elegant. I'd stared at her picture for a while that night before bed, feeling that familiar ache of longing, that quiet pride that she was mine. Our marriage wasn't perfect. No marriage is. But I believed in us, in what we'd built. A life, a family, 2 beautiful kids, late-night laughter, inside jokes, sex that still left us breathless when we found time for it. She'd been stressed lately, traveling more, working late. I thought she just needed a reminder of what was waiting for her at home. So I cashed in some vacation days, pulled the kids from school with the promise of adventure, and boarded a flight with an anxious, eager heart. I'd spent the last 2 hours on the plane replaying every sweet detail of what I imagined. Her smile when she opened the door, the tearful hugs, Max pretending he wasn't as excited as Ellie, maybe a quick kiss stolen between Mommy squeals. I even packed the dress shirt she liked best. You know, just in case we had the chance to sneak away once the kids fell asleep. The hotel she was staying at, the Monarch Grand, was only 15 minutes from the airport. We caught an Uber, me trying to balance the luggage, a bouquet, and 2 squirmy kids in the back seat. My heart beat faster with every turn. It had been a long time since I'd surprised Dana. I couldn't wait to see her face. We pulled into the valet entrance just past 9 p.m. The city lights bounced off the Monarch's glass facade. I remember thinking, this place looks expensive. Swanky even. I hoped she was making good impressions. Inside, the lobby was buzzing with energy, business travelers in suits, a few younger couples with cocktails in hand, ambient jazz humming from hidden speakers. It smelled like polished wood and citrus. I approached the front desk while the kids gawked at a massive chandelier that looked like it belonged in a royal ballroom. The concierge smiled as I stepped up. Good evening, sir. Checking in. I nodded, adjusting Ellie on my hip. Yes, my wife's already here, though. Dana Whitaker. She's attending the West Coast Healthcare Innovations Conference. The woman typed with manicured fingers, her eyes scanning the screen. Then she frowned slightly. I'm sorry, I don't have a Dana Whitaker checked in under that name. My heart stuttered. Maybe it's under the conference block? She checked again, then shook her head. Still nothing. Are you sure of the name? I blinked. Of course I was sure. I'd booked the same conference for her months ago. Can you check Whitaker without the first name? Another pause. More typing. Then, there's no Whitaker in the system either. I'm sorry, sir. I felt Max tug at my sleeve, but I held up a hand. Maybe she used her maiden name? Dana Matson? The woman tried again. This time her eyes lit up with recognition. Matson. Yes, we do have a Dana Matson registered. She checked in 3 days ago. A chill ran down my spine. That wasn't just a mistake. Dana hadn't used her maiden name for anything in years. Not her email, not her luggage, not even when booking spa appointments. My fingers clenched around the bouquet. Max pulled harder. Dad, he said, whispering urgently. Look. I turned. He pointed to a wall of security monitors behind the front desk, angled for employee view only. One of the screens cycled through camera footage in 10-second loops. And there, under dim lighting in what looked like the hotel's bar lounge, was Dana. She was laughing, tossing her head back the way she used to on our date nights. A man sat beside her, tall, dark suit, hairstyled too perfectly for someone on a business trip. He leaned in close. She didn't pull away. Her hand landed on his thigh. Then, as if someone had punched me in the chest, I saw her kiss him. Openly. Passionately. Not the kind of kiss reserved for a flirty stranger or even a drunken mistake. No, this was practiced. Familiar. Intimate. I stared at the screen until it looped again. The flowers in my hand wilted suddenly. Or maybe it was just my grip crushing the stems. Ellie noticed my silence and looked up, her big brown eyes searching my face. Daddy? Is Mommy here? My voice caught in my throat. She is, I said after a pause, managing to smile. Let's just get our room and rest. We'll surprise her tomorrow. If you've ever had to lie to your kids with a smile on your face while your insides are in freefall, then you'll understand what the next 10 minutes felt like. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped Ellie's stuffed elephant while I gave my best, everything's okay, grin to the concierge. I'll need a room. 2 queens, I said, voice too calm for the nuclear storm behind it. Preferably on the same floor as Ms. Madsen, if that's possible. The receptionist hesitated. Sir, I'm not permitted to share room details about other guests for privacy reasons. Right? Of course. I forced a chuckle. Figured I'd try my luck. She gave me a practiced, polite smile and started clicking away, and I used the moment to pull my phone from my pocket. My hands trembled as I tapped Dana's contact. I could have called her right then, demanded an explanation, screamed into the phone about what I just saw. But I didn't. Something in me needed more. More certainty. More proof. Or maybe just more pain to justify the rage swelling in my chest. Her last text, just this morning, read, "Don't forget Ellie's dance class. Love you." That kiss emoji burned like acid now. Sir, the concierge said, I do have one room left. It's 2 queens, but it's on the 11th floor, not near Ms. Madsen's room. That name again. Madsen. Hearing it made me flinch. That's fine, I said, sliding my card across the counter. We won't be staying long. Max glanced up from his switch. Are we not going to see Mom tonight? I forced a smile. She's probably asleep already, buddy. Long day of meetings. We'll surprise her in the morning. He seemed to buy it. Ellie was too busy spinning around and pretending the elephant could fly. Thank God for her innocence. The elevator ride to the 11th floor felt like a descent into some unfamiliar version of my life. Every ding of each passing floor echoed like a warning bell. We reached our room, 1104. I opened the door, ushered the kids in, and flicked on the lights. Sterile. Businesslike. Clean enough, but not comforting. Can we watch a movie? Ellie asked, already climbing onto the bed, elephant tucked under her arm. Sure, I said. Max, help her find cartoons. He tossed the switch aside and grabbed the remote. I made a weak excuse. Needed to grab a bottle of water from the lobby, maybe some snacks. I told them to lock the door behind me. Max, sensing my tone shift, just nodded silently. Back in the lobby, I hovered near the coffee bar pretending to check my email. Instead, I scanned every face, every passing figure. I had no idea where Dana was now. If she'd gone up to that man's room. If they were still at the bar. I half expected to see her appear, tipsy and glowing, arm in arm with the man whose lips had just been on hers. But she didn't show. So I approached the front desk again. This time, with a different plan. The concierge from before was gone, replaced by a younger man with sharp glasses and a disarming smile. Hey, I said casually, leaning on the counter like I did this all the time. I think I dropped something earlier in the lounge. Mind if I check the security footage? Maybe around 9 p.m.? He hesitated. Sir, unfortunately, only hotel security or management can access recorded footage. Oh, right, I said, reaching into my pocket and flashing my contractor ID, Whitaker Residential Installations. I'm actually a tech consultant. Installed a few surveillance systems here 3 years ago. Was in town for a follow-up. Figured maybe I'd left my wallet under one of the bar stools. He studied the ID a beat longer than I liked. 1 second, let me check with my manager. I thought the jig was up, but 2 minutes later, he returned and motioned me toward a side room behind the desk. We're not supposed to do this, he whispered. But if you can pinpoint the time, we'll run a quick loop for you. Inside was a modest room with 3 flat monitors and a chilled air that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. He keyed in the timestamp. The footage flicked on, grainy, black and white. There she was again. Dana, my wife, sitting at the bar, close to that same man. her head tilted toward him, his hand on her thigh. They weren't just flirting, they were connected. Like two people sharing an emotional secret, not just a drink. Then she kissed him again, longer this time. His hand slipped beneath her blazer. She didn't pull away. I stood frozen. My body wanted to lurch forward and punch through the screen. But I didn't. I just stared. That your wife? The clerk asked quietly. I nodded. I'm sorry, man. I nodded again, and I think I even said thanks. I left that room feeling less like a husband and more like a fool. The kind of fool who flies across the country with stuffed animals and flowers only to watch the love of his life give her mouth to another man. I didn't go straight back upstairs. I sat in the quiet, empty conference room nearby, lights dimmed, the hum of the AC the only sound. I stared at my phone. She was probably upstairs right now. Or not. Maybe still down the hall, in his room. Maybe she was whispering his name the same way she used to whisper mine. I wanted to confront her. Wanted to storm down the hallway and tear open whatever door she was behind. But I had my kids with me. And something told me, this wasn't just a one-night thing. This was deeper. This was betrayal with intention. Morning came far too quickly. I barely slept, just drifted in and out of thoughts darker than anything I'd imagined myself capable of. I must have stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind looping through the images from the night before. Dana's lips on his. Her body leaned into him, relaxed and open in ways I hadn't seen from her in months. Years, maybe. I heard Max stir first. Then Ellie's sleepy voice whispered something about pancakes. They didn't notice my bloodshot eyes or the weight in my silence. Kids are blessed with that kind of oblivion. Or maybe I was just a better actor than I gave myself credit for. I pulled myself together in the bathroom, slapped cold water on my face, and forced a version of me into the mirror that looked functional. Let's grab breakfast, I told them. The hotel had a buffet set up in the main lobby cafe, white tablecloths, scrambled eggs under heat lamps, and smiling servers pouring orange juice like nothing in the world was wrong. We ate in a booth by the window. Ellie asked when we'd see Mommy. Soon, I said, almost choking on the word. She's got a seminar this morning, remember? I fed them that line like it was gospel. Seminar. Professional appearance. Business responsibilities. I was building a cover story I didn't believe, but I couldn't let my kids fall yet. Not into this. Not until I figured out how deep the well ran. After breakfast, Ellie begged to go to the hotel's tiny arcade. Max didn't argue. I handed him $20 and told him to keep an eye on his sister. He nodded with that quiet, loyal look of a kid who sensed something was wrong, but didn't have the words for it yet. With them distracted, I made my way back to the lobby. I didn't have a plan. Not exactly. But the image of Dana and that man still haunted me, playing on a loop in my head like a cursed home video. I had to see more. I needed the timeline, the body language, every stolen glance and touch, because only then would I fully believe what I already knew. I headed to the front desk again, hoping my luck would hold. Same guy as last night. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. You mind helping me again with something? He raised a brow, but nodded. Sure. What time? 9 to 10 last night. Lobby cam. That's all I need. Same person? Yeah. He didn't ask anything more. Just brought me back into the surveillance room. There was a stale cup of coffee on the desk, and the monitors glowed in the dim light. He scrubbed through the lobby footage, then stopped. There she was. Again. Dana, walking in from the side entrance, wearing a navy blouse I'd never seen before, low cut, hugging her frame. Her heels clacked on the marble floor. She stopped at the bar's entrance, glanced down at her phone, then smiled. That same man walked into frame. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, no tie, confident stride. They met in the center of the lobby, under the chandelier. He leaned in, said something. Dana laughed. She tilted her head and kissed him. Right there, in the open, beneath the chandelier where hundreds of people might see. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't scared. She wasn't even cautious. She was comfortable. The man's hand slid to her waist as they headed toward the elevators. Dana leaned into his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stared at the screen. My chest felt hollow. She used to lean on me that way. I realized, in that moment, it wasn't just a betrayal of our vows. It was a betrayal of memory. Of all those little moments that had once felt sacred. The way her fingers curled around mine in movie theaters. The scent of her shampoo lingering in our shared pillows. The little gasp she made when I used to kiss the hollow of her neck. All of it, overwritten. Gone. She checked out this morning. The clerk said quietly, eyes still on the footage. What? She left around 6:30. Paid the bill herself. Didn't leave a forwarding room. She checked out. He nodded. No luggage brought down, though. Might have left from the side. Not uncommon for business guests in a hurry. It clicked then, too perfectly. She never planned to stay in that room long. Just long enough for him. I left the security office in a haze. I wasn't even sure what I was doing until I found myself back near the arcade, watching my kids throw skee balls and giggle like their world was still whole. I sat on a bench and stared at them through the glass, trying to remember what life had felt like before my marriage started disintegrating in slow motion. My phone buzzed. A text from Dana. Morning. Just getting ready for the seminar. You guys getting okay? Miss you. I stared at the screen, jaw locked. Her words felt like acid dressed up in love. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to say, I saw you. I saw everything. Who is he? How long? Why? But instead, I wrote, just got in. Kids are excited to see you. Hope the seminar goes well. A beat later, she responded with a kiss emoji. The same one from her message yesterday. The same emoji she used before kissing another man in front of hotel security cameras. I almost threw the phone against the floor. But I didn't. I had a new idea forming. If she wanted to keep up the lie, then fine. I'd let her. For now. By the time I got the kids back to the hotel room, they were riding the sugar high from too much soda and arcade tokens. Ellie had a neon bracelet that glowed faintly even in the sunlight pouring through the blinds. Max was quieter, his natural skepticism making subtle appearances in his side glances, but he didn't press me. Movie? Ellie asked, already crawling into the blankets with her elephant. In a bit, I said, kneeling to untie her shoes. Dana used to do this. Untie their laces, brush their hair back, kiss the top of their heads. But now I felt like I was caring for them while juggling grenades behind my back. I turned the TV on and let the mindless cartoons do their job. Then I grabbed my phone, walked into the bathroom, and locked the door. I stared at the screen for a long time. Dana. The name glared up at me. I hit call. She answered on the second ring, chipper and unaware. Hey babe, she said. Her voice was smooth, light, maybe too bright. Everything okay? You sound winded. Yeah. Just stepped away from the kids for a second. They're watching TV. Oh good. That's sweet. I could hear ambient noise, what sounded like a cafe in the background. Plates clinking. Silverware. Conversations. How's San Diego? The hotel treating you okay? It's beautiful, she said, almost wistfully. Room's nice. Bit chilly this morning, but the coffee here is amazing. I'm just prepping for my seminar. Starts at 10. What's the topic again? I asked, voice steady. She hesitated only a breath too long. Oh, it's patient-provider communication models. You know, the updated HIPAA interfaces and whatnot. Got it. I stared at the faucet as if it might drip truth. And how are the kids? Is Max still glued to that game? Yep, I said, managing a small chuckle. And Ellie's already convinced she wants to live in California now. Dana laughed. It sounded genuine. That was the worst part. It all sounded real. Familiar. If I hadn't seen what I saw. Will you be free later tonight? I asked. Oh, she said, another pause. Maybe, but there's a networking mixer after the seminar. I'll try to slip out early if I can. Why? No reason, I said. Just thought maybe we could FaceTime before bed. Of course, she said. Let me get through the mixer and I'll call. Promise. I ended the call with a casual, good luck today, and dropped the phone into the sink like it was something filthy. She lied so easily, without so much as a crack in her tone. She wasn't at any seminar. She wasn't prepping, and she sure as hell wasn't drinking coffee alone. That laugh, it probably wasn't even mine anymore. I left the bathroom, stomach churning. Max looked up from his switch. Is Mom gonna meet us today? I didn't blink. She said she's got a mixer tonight, but maybe tomorrow morning. Max nodded, then squinted. She said her seminar's at 10. It's almost noon. That stopped me cold. What? He showed me his watch, his prized G-Shock he'd begged for last Christmas. She said 10. It's almost 12 here. I swallowed hard. Maybe she meant Pacific time. Max shrugged. Maybe. The kid had a sharper instinct than I gave him credit for. I knew what I had to do. I told them I was going to grab food from downstairs, asked Max to keep Ellie company. I'll be back in 15. He didn't question it. This time, I wasn't going to ask permission at the front desk. I waited until the concierge stepped away, then walked around the corner to the business center. It wasn't much, just 2 computers, a printer, and a tiny lounge, but it had a view of the same hallway where Dana had walked in the footage the night before. I stared at that corridor, watched every man who passed through it, every woman who wasn't my wife. And then I noticed a familiar face. The well-dressed man from the lobby footage. He exited the elevator with a garment bag slung over his shoulder, phone pressed to his ear, laughing softly into it. My fists clenched at my sides. He didn't notice me, but I followed him with my eyes as he stepped outside the hotel, called an Uber, and disappeared down the sidewalk. I didn't move. I couldn't. My blood felt like boiling syrup in my veins. Slow, sticky, angry. Then a thought struck me. What if I could get more proof? Something undeniable. I went back to the desk. I lost something important. I told the concierge, trying not to sound too rehearsed. Would it be possible to check this morning's security footage? Around 6:30 a.m.? Lobby or side entrance? He gave me the same look as before, torn between policy and sympathy. I pulled out the same ID from last night. This time, I added quietly, my wife's here on business. There's something I need to confirm. Please. After a long pause, he sighed. 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. Back in the surveillance room, I watched her again. 6:33 a.m. Dana stepped out of the elevator. Alone. Her hair was slightly tousled, not like the Dana I knew who curled and sprayed every strand. She wore the same blouse as the night before, but now it was wrinkled, untucked. Her heels were in her hand. No suitcase. No conference badge. She smiled at the valet, handed him a tip, and climbed into a black car. That wasn't a woman heading to a seminar. That was a woman doing the walk of shame. I left the room, numb. The Dana I thought I knew was dead. But the game? The game was just beginning. After what I saw that morning, I couldn't sit still. Not with my kids watching cartoons in the hotel room. Not with Dana's voice still echoing in my head from that call. Light, cheerful, so confident in her lie. I kept picturing her slipping into that black car with bare feet and a rumpled blouse, her hair kissed out of place by someone who wasn't me. And somehow, she still had the audacity to send me hearts and texts. I knew I was past the point of denial now. That part of me, the one still hoping this was all a misunderstanding, some illusion born from jet lag or paranoia, was dead. And what remained was cold. Calculating. Ready. I left the kids with strict instructions. Stay in the room. Don't open the door for anyone. And Max, God bless him, nodded with a seriousness that made me ache. Then I went back downstairs. I needed confirmation, something physical, something I could hold in my hand and not just watch on a screen. The plan forming in my head was reckless, a bit shady, and borderline obsessive, but I didn't care. I had to know what room she'd actually stayed in, where she brought him. So I lied. Again, I walked straight up to the concierge, the same guy from the day before, and put on the most distressed husband face I could muster. I'm really sorry to bother you again, I began. But I left something personal in my wife's room yesterday. We had a miscommunication. I thought she'd checked us in under our shared name, but turns out she used her maiden name. He blinked, probably remembering the request from before. Madsen? Yes, Dana Madsen. I know she checked out early, but I was hoping I could peek in the room, see if it's still there before housekeeping clears it. He hesitated. Sir, that's really not. I know it's unusual, I said quickly, but it's not valuable or anything. Just something sentimental. I swear, I won't touch anything. Another pause. Then he nodded, quietly typing something behind the desk. She stayed in 906. Checked out this morning. Yes, but it hasn't been cleaned yet. Perfect. I'll escort you up, he added, standing. Thanks, I said, my heart hammering as we entered the elevator. Room 906 was 2 floors below mine. The hallway was quiet. The door was closed, no service carts in sight. The concierge unlocked it with a keycard and pushed the door open. I'll wait here, he said, standing aside. Please be quick. I nodded and stepped inside. The room was still in mild disarray. The bedsheets were wrinkled, the pillows scattered. There was a wine glass on the dresser, half full and crusted at the rim. The air smelled faintly of vanilla lotion and something warmer, male cologne, maybe. Not mine. Not even close. I moved to the bathroom. Toothbrush. Razor. Lipstick. A faint red smudge was on the edge of the sink, like someone had leaned against it. Dana never wore that shade. She favored lighter tones. Peach. Nude. subtle pinks. This was bold. Scarlet. Sexy in a way she hadn't been around me in months. The trash can caught my eye. Inside, among tissues and wrappers, was the foil of a condom. Not the brand we used. Not even one we kept anymore. My stomach flipped. This wasn't a one-off. This wasn't her flirting at the bar and pulling away last minute. This wasn't an emotional affair teetering on the edge. They had sex. Right here. In this room. On this bed. Against that mirror. Maybe more than once. I felt like vomiting, but I swallowed it down and turned to go. Then I paused, glanced once more around the room, and spotted something that didn't belong to the hotel at all. A tie. Dark blue. Patterned with tiny silver diamonds. It was draped over the back of the desk chair like he'd taken it off mid-laugh and never bothered to retrieve it. I didn't touch it, just looked at it for a long time. He'd been comfortable here, comfortable enough to forget something. I backed out of the room, shutting the doors softly behind me. Find what you needed? The concierge asked. Yeah, I said. Thanks again. He gave me a professional nod, and we parted ways at the elevator. I stepped in alone, pressed the button for the 11th floor, and exhaled only once the doors closed. Back in our room, the kids were still glued to the screen. Ellie had fallen asleep against Max's side. He looked up at me, eyes searching my face. You okay? He asked. No, but I nodded. Yeah. I sat on the edge of the bed, unsure what to do with the information I now carried like dynamite in my chest. I wanted to tell someone. Scream. Call Dana and let her hear the fury in my voice. But not yet. I wasn't done gathering. This wasn't just a fling. This was orchestrated, planned, intentional. And if she thought she could keep playing two lives, cheerful wife and silent adulteress, she was about to learn that I'd stopped being her safety net. She'd used me as cover, used our kids as cover. But I had cover stories of my own now, and one of them was about to blow hers wide open. I've never been a jealous man. I used to think that was one of my best qualities, trusting, grounded, secure. But maybe that wasn't strength. Maybe it was just blindness, naivety disguised as patience. The next morning I woke up early. Too early. The sun had barely touched the edge of the curtains when I slipped out of bed, leaving the kids bundled up in sleep. Ellie's elephant cradled in her arms, Max's feet dangling off the side of the mattress. I dressed in silence, heart racing, palms dry. It was time. If Dana was following her pattern, she wouldn't be at a seminar or a mixer. She'd be with him, and I needed to see it for myself. There's a particular kind of pain that doesn't roar. It whispers, gnaws at you. I felt it as I sat in the hotel cafe alone, nursing a black coffee I couldn't taste, pretending to scroll my phone while my eyes stayed fixed on the glass door leading to the street. Then I saw her, walking hand in hand with him. I felt it again, the sting, the hollowing in my chest. But this time, there was no screen between us. No grainy footage. This was real life. My wife, in a sundress I'd never seen before, her hair tied back in a way that made her look younger, freer. And him, same suit jacket from the other day, a fresh button-down underneath, sunglasses perched just above his brow. They walked toward the cafe patio, laughing about something. I couldn't hear it, but I didn't need to. Dana touched his arm. He leaned in. They kissed, softly, like it was routine. Not passionate, not frantic. Familiar. That's what gutted me most. This wasn't some one-night mistake she'd spent weeks regretting. This was comfort. Repetition. A rhythm they'd built in secret. They sat 2 tables away from me, facing the street. I shifted, careful not to be seen. The awning and a large planter shielded most of my face. I could hear her voice clearly now. You always order the same thing, she said with a playful smirk. And you always pretend to be surprised, he replied. They were inside jokes. Rehearsed lines. Shared rituals that belonged to them now. I clenched my jaw. The waitress arrived and took their order. Dana leaned forward, her fingers curling around her coffee cup. Her nails were painted a soft pink. I hadn't noticed that in months. I think Max is starting to catch on, she said quietly. My blood froze. He raised an eyebrow. Seriously? He asked about the conference schedule. Said something didn't match. I played it off, but still. He chuckled. Kid's smart. Dana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That was when I realized something. She was tired. Not physically. Emotionally. For the first time in days, I saw the strain in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. She was juggling too many lies, and it was starting to wear on her. He's been asking for you, she said after a pause. Wants to know when I'll come home. You ready to tell him yet? Dana's voice faltered. No, not yet. There it was. Confirmation. Not just of the affair, but of her plan. She wasn't just sleeping with him. She was building a second life. She was preparing, gently, to pivot away from the first. From us. I stood, heart pounding. I couldn't take it anymore. I left a tin on the table, barely touched my coffee, and walked straight out through the side door of the cafe, disappearing into the alley behind it. I didn't confront them. Not yet. This wasn't the place. I paced for a while, my mind on fire. The pain wasn't fresh anymore. It was raw, but familiar. I kept seeing her fingers on his. Her body angled toward him, like gravity was pulling her his way now. Back at the hotel, I found the kids still asleep. Ellie's feet tangled in the sheets, Max's hand on his stomach like he'd fallen asleep mid-sentence. I watched them for a while. Then I sat at the desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up Dana's company website. It took me less than a minute to find the list of executives attending the West Coast Healthcare Innovations Conference. I searched every page, every attendee, every breakout session. No mention of Dana Madsen or Whitaker. Nothing. But that didn't surprise me. What did surprise me was when I finally found his name. Bradley Moore, Vice President of Strategic Operations, based out of the LA office. I clicked on his LinkedIn. Married. 2 kids. Lives in Laguna Beach. His smiling face stared back at me from the screen, arm around a beautiful blonde woman with a wide, proud smile. Their 2 girls in front, maybe 6 and 8. And just like that, the affair stopped being about my life falling apart. It became about theirs too. I stared at that image for a long time. His wife. His daughters. Did they know? Had they felt it? Those cracks in the foundation, that subtle drift in his attention? I copied the profile link into an email draft. No message. Just the image. His name. The timestamp. Then I closed it. Not yet. But soon. I looked over at my kids. Innocent. Unaware. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about truth. For all of us. There's a certain point where grief hardens into resolve. The tears dry up, the shaking stops, and what remains is something colder. Clearer. Not rage exactly, but strategy. That's where I found myself by mid-afternoon. Sitting in the corner of our hotel room while my kids built pillow forts and tried to drag me into a game I couldn't pretend to care about. They had no idea their family was standing on a fault line. Ellie asked me when we'd see Mommy. I told her soon. Max didn't ask at all. He was starting to sense something deeper. He watched me more now, quiet, observant, like a dog who could smell a storm. I stared at the screen of my laptop. Dana's cheerful text from that morning still glared at me. Love you. Seminar's going great. I'd never hated an emoji before. I closed the message and reopened the folder I'd created in secret. I named it DL_plan, a stupid, vague abbreviation that stood for Double Life Plan, but it gave me just enough distance to not throw up while I sorted it. Inside were screenshots, footage of her in the lobby, still frames from her entering room 906, a video clip of her kissing him on the patio, a photo I snapped earlier from behind the cafe planter, her hand wrapped around his wrist, her eyes locked on his, and then a second folder, titled Brad Moore Home. Inside were the screenshots I'd pulled from his LinkedIn, his wife's Facebook, even a short video posted just last week of him dancing with his daughter at what looked like a school talent show. I felt sick watching it. His wife was filming, laughing in the background, her voice filled with pride. He had a full life. A beautiful one. And he was throwing grenades into it just like Dana was into ours. I could have sent the files right then. To his wife. To Dana's boss. To her entire division. But that would have been satisfying in the moment. And it wouldn't change the fact that Dana still got to walk around in control of the narrative. She still believed she had power. I needed to take that from her. Not out of spite, but because I needed her to finally feel what it was like to be the last one to know. So I formed a new plan. Dana was due to attend a dinner that evening. Not with me, of course. With her colleagues. A networking event for emerging leaders in healthcare innovation. Or at least that's what the email I found on her open laptop last month had said. She had forwarded it to herself. From her work account. And I had access to her personal email. She never changed her passwords. I searched again. There it was. Thursday, 7:30 p.m., Monarch Vista Ballroom. Business formal. Projectors provided for optional presentations. I almost laughed. It was too perfect. I could crash that dinner. Not as the awkward husband demanding answers, but as the final nail in her double life's coffin. All I needed was access to the AV system, and I could let the hotel's own security footage speak for me. No theatrics, no shouting, just truth. Brutal, undeniable truth. I called the front desk from the bathroom. "This is Daniel Whitaker. My wife is attending a business event in the Vista Ballroom tonight. I believe she reserved time to run a short presentation. I just wanted to confirm what format your system supports. USB? HDMI?" The woman on the other end didn't even hesitate. "Ah, yes, Ms. Madsen is scheduled for 8:10. We support both formats, sir. There will be a technician there to assist if needed." Perfect. After I hung up, I sat in the bathtub for a long while, fully clothed, phone in hand. That strange coldness returned. The kind that lets you make devastating decisions without flinching. I opened my cloud drive and uploaded 3 files. The footage of Dana in the bar with Brad. The elevator kiss. The hallway footage of her slipping into his room. I spliced them together into a single video. Silent, time-stamped, clean. No need for voiceover. The imagery was enough. I renamed the file. Madsen_presentation_final. MP4-inch. Then I saved it to a USB drive I kept in my laptop bag. When I returned to the hotel room, Max was quietly scrolling his phone while Ellie colored on the nightstand brochure. I smiled at them, soft and small. "Hey," I said, kneeling beside Max. "Want to help me with something?" He looked up, curious. "I need you to keep Ellie busy for about an hour tonight. You think you can handle that?" He frowned. "Where are you going?" I considered lying. "But not this time. I'm going to talk to Mommy." He stared at me for a moment, then nodded. "I can keep her busy," he said. "No questions." God, I love that kid. At 7:15, I showered, shaved, and put on the same dress shirt Dana used to say brought out my eyes. I tied a simple navy blue tie, combed my hair, and took one last look at myself in the mirror. I didn't look broken anymore. I looked like a man who was done pretending. As I stepped out into the hallway, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket, I thought about the version of Dana I used to know. The woman who sent me videos of Ellie's first steps. The woman who cried at Max's first recital. The woman who once told me I was the safest place she'd ever known. That woman was gone. And tonight, everyone else would know it too. I walked into the Vista Ballroom just before 8 p.m. There was a quiet murmur across the space. Chatter between executives, polite laughter, the clinking of wine glasses against polished dinnerware. The room was sleek, corporate luxury to the letter. Navy and white linen, geometric chandeliers, buffet tables lined with food no one touched, and a projector screen at the far end, framed by 2 monstera plants trying to look casual. A small badge dangled around my neck. One I'd printed myself with an old logo from Dana's employer and the name Daniel Whitaker, IT consultant. No one questioned it. It's amazing how invisible you can be if you look like you belong. I moved to the side of the room near the AV table. A young tech in a white button-down was monitoring the laptop connected to the projector. "Evening," I said casually, reaching into my jacket pocket. He nodded. "You here with one of the teams?" I smiled. "Yep, Madsen's group. She's presenting at 8:10, right?" "Yes, sir." "Cool." She wanted me to load the file early. She was worried the HDMI cable might glitch last minute. I handed him the USB, labeled presentation_final. MP4. "Smart," he said, plugging it in. "You'd be surprised how many execs show up with busted drives or mismatched file types." I said nothing, just watched as he dragged the file onto the desktop. "Should I preview it?" he asked. "No need. It's just highlights from this week's trip. Montage stuff. She'll intro it." He gave me a thumbs up. I stepped back and found an empty seat at the rear. At 8:08, Dana walked in. My chest seized. She wore a pale green dress I'd never seen before, soft satin that hugged her in all the places I remembered once exploring with reverence. Her hair was curled just slightly, just enough to look effortless. She had that glow about her, the one I now knew didn't come from professional success, but from being touched, adored, claimed by someone else. Bradmore wasn't with her. She approached the front with a champagne flute in one hand and a small note card in the other. I watched her eyes dart to the AV table. The tech gave her a subtle thumbs up. "Showtime." She stood behind the podium, adjusted the mic. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice crisp and confident. "For those of you I haven't had the chance to meet, I'm Dana Madsen from the Chicago office. First off, thank you to the organizers for this amazing week of collaboration. I think we've all walked away with new insights, new connections. A few people clapped politely. Dana smiled. I wanted to share a short video, just a highlight reel of our time here. The lighter side of healthcare, if you will. She turned toward the screen, signaling the tech. The lights dimmed. The projector buzzed. And then, there she was, Dana, laughing in the hotel bar, tossing her head back as Brad leaned in. A kiss, lingering, unmistakable. Then the elevator, his hand on her lower back. The way her mouth found his again before the doors slid shut. The room went silent. You could feel the tension shift in an instant, from polite engagement to stunned confusion. Some laughed, nervously. Someone whispered, "What the hell?" Dana turned around. I caught the flicker of confusion in her eyes. Her smile faltered. She took a step forward, raising her hand toward the AV table. Then the final clip played. The hallway footage. Dana slipping into room 906. Alone. Moments later, Brad entering the same door. Fade to black. Timestamps in the lower corner. Date. Hotel name. Logo. The room was dead quiet. Dana's voice cracked. I don't know what that was. That's not. She looked toward the tech, eyes wide. Stop the video. It's over, he muttered. The room was still dark, until the lights came back on, and everyone turned to look at her. Her boss, sitting near the front, stared at her like she'd just morphed into something unrecognizable. Two of her co-workers, both women I remembered from previous holiday parties, exchanged a look of stunned disbelief. Dana's hands trembled. Her note card slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. She scanned the room in panic. That's when her eyes found me. I was still seated at the back, calm, arms crossed. She stared at me like I was a ghost. "Daniel," she whispered. I didn't move. Her mouth opened again, closed. She shook her head, then stumbled toward the mic again. "This isn't what it looks like. That footage, it's out of context. This was a work meeting. No one kisses during a work meeting," someone muttered from the side. Laughter. Cruel. Uneasy. Her boss stood. "Dana, we'll speak privately." The tone wasn't a request. Dana flinched. "Please, just let me. This was supposed to be a..." I stood then, only because I couldn't take any more. Her eyes locked on me again, pleading now. "Daniel," she said, her voice cracking. "Why would you?" "Because I wanted you to feel it," I said loud enough for the front row to hear. The shock, the confusion, the betrayal. People turned. I didn't care. I stepped forward, stopped halfway down the aisle. "You looked me in the eye yesterday and told me you were getting ready for a seminar," I said, still calm. "You kissed him 10 minutes later, right under that chandelier." Dana's face collapsed in real time. Her mouth trembled. Her knees bent slightly, like her whole body was folding inward. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she did the one thing I didn't expect. She ran, turned from the mic, and sprinted toward the side door, heels echoing off the ballroom floor like gunshots. Silence followed her. I stood alone in the middle of that room. Exposed. Raw. Vindicated. Broken. A slow clap started somewhere behind me. I ignored it. This wasn't victory. This was war. And the fallout had just begun. I didn't follow her. I watched Dana vanish through that side exit like she could outrun shame. Like sprinting into the dark could reverse what she'd just seen unravel under the projector. Her absence left a vacuum in the ballroom. The kind you feel in funerals and failed weddings. People didn't know whether to whisper or laugh, whether to finish their wine or just walk out. I didn't either. I stood still. Somewhere near the podium, her boss, Clark something, was already dialing his phone. Probably HR. Maybe legal. The two women who'd once been Dana's close colleagues rose to their feet slowly, not saying a word as they walked past me toward the exit. One of them, a redhead I vaguely remembered from our daughter's birthday party 2 years ago, met my eyes. Her expression was unreadable. Half sympathy, half horror. And then there was me, the husband, the quiet one in the background. Not anymore. I turned and left before someone could make a scene of thanking me for the drama, or worse, offering me condolences like someone had died. Outside the ballroom, the hall was quiet, carpeted in deep gray, the sconces casting warm, ambient light. It all felt too calm for what had just happened. Then I saw her, Dana, sitting on the floor beside an ice machine alcove, knees drawn up, head in her hands. Her heels were kicked off, her mascara smeared in streaks down her cheek. She heard my footsteps and looked up slowly. Daniel. Her voice cracked. I said nothing. She scrambled to her feet, reaching out. Why would you do that? In front of everyone? I needed them to see you the way I do. That wasn't fair, she said, her voice rising. You ambushed me. You lied to me, I replied. You lied to our kids. For weeks. Months, Dana. She shrank under that. But the kids, she started. Don't say their names right now. That stopped her. I took a slow breath. Do you even know what you've done to them? What you've done to us? She wiped her eyes, hands shaking. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Brad and I, we didn't plan to. Don't, I cut in. Don't feed me lines. I've seen the footage. All of it. The bar. The room. The brunch. I've seen enough to know this wasn't an accident. You had a whole system in place. She bit her lip, nodding slowly. It started as a connection. He listened. You were always tired, distracted. I felt invisible. And instead of telling me, I said, you turned to someone else. You burned everything behind my back. You made me feel crazy. I didn't want to hurt you. That's the thing, I said, stepping closer, voice low. You didn't care if I got hurt. You just didn't want to be the one to watch it happen. She flinched like I'd hit her. Silence stretched between us. She looked small now. Not glamorous, not powerful, just broken. But I couldn't feel sorry for her. Not with the weight of betrayal still pressing down on my chest like a stone I couldn't dislodge. Then she whispered it. Are we done? I didn't answer. I turned away. Back in the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Suit slightly wrinkled. Tie askew. Eyes dark and hollow. I looked like a man who'd just put a bullet in his marriage. And maybe I had. When I got back to the hotel room, Max was still awake. Ellie had finally passed out on the other bed, clutching her stuffed elephant like it was the last soft thing left in the world. Max looked up. His eyes searched mine. Did you see her? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't have to. I sat down beside him on the edge of the bed. He leaned into me without a word. We sat like that for a while. Father and son. A boy too young to know betrayal fully, but old enough to feel the cracks in a family starting to split wide open. The next morning, I packed. Dana hadn't come back. I didn't expect her to. We checked out quietly. No fanfare. No flowers. No final glances back at the room where innocence died. The kids munched on airport breakfast sandwiches. Ellie asked if we'd see Mommy when we got home. I told her I didn't know. I wasn't lying. We landed in Chicago just after noon. I drove straight home. The house felt foreign. Everything was where we left it. Toys still scattered on the living room rug. Dana's slippers by the door. But something had shifted. The warmth was gone. That evening, I found her wedding ring on the bathroom counter. I didn't touch it. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Dana, I'm flying back tomorrow. I'll stay in the guest room. We need to talk. I didn't reply. I sat at the kitchen table, watching Max pretend not to notice the silence. Ellie colored, her little legs swinging under the chair. And somewhere in the middle of that moment, it hit me. She had detonated a bomb. But the dust hadn't settled yet. And we were still breathing. She arrived home just after noon. The same front door she used to rush through with stories from work, groceries in one hand and kisses ready in the other. Now she stepped through it like a stranger. Hair tied back. No makeup. A duffel bag slung over her shoulder. No keys jingling. No calls of I'm home. Just silence. I was in the kitchen making sandwiches for the kids. Dana paused in the doorway. Our eyes met. No words passed. She nodded once. I nodded back. Then she slipped upstairs, disappearing into the guest room like a ghost into a familiar but no longer welcome house. The kids didn't ask much. Ellie asked if Mommy was feeling sick. Max didn't even look up. That evening, once Ellie was asleep and Max had retreated to his room with headphones on and a wall of silence around him, she knocked on the living room door. Can we talk? I didn't answer. She came in anyway. Dana looked smaller in sweatpants and an old hoodie, her armor gone. No heels. No lipstick. No perfume. Just reality, raw and heavy. She sat across from me. The distance between us felt wider than the room. I know I don't deserve a chance, she started. But I'm asking for one anyway. I said nothing. I just need you to hear me. Please. The silence stretched. Then I nodded. She inhaled sharply, like she'd been holding her breath for days. It started 3 months ago. I met Brad at a networking mixer. He was kind. Funny. He asked about me, really asked. I didn't plan for it to become more. You planned to sleep in his hotel room, I said evenly. You planned kisses in lobbies and lies on the phone. Don't pretend it just happened. Her voice cracked. I know. I planned it. I made every choice. And they were awful. She looked down at her hands, twisting a tissue in her lap until it tore. I felt unseen, like I was just someone's mother, someone's wife. Not Dana. Not a person. You were always tired, distracted, worried about bills or work or the kids. I felt like I was fading. So you needed someone else to see you? I asked. She nodded. I see you, I said. I've always seen you. Through postpartum tears. Through promotions. Through nights when you hated yourself. I was there. But you didn't want to be seen by me. You wanted to be wanted by someone new. She covered her mouth, the tears finally spilling over. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to throw everything away. But you did. I miss you, she said, voice trembling. I miss us. I miss the way you used to look at me. The way we'd laugh over nothing in bed at night. I miss being able to reach for you without guilt. I looked at her for a long moment. I don't know how to come back from this, I said. Because every time I look at you now, I don't see my wife. I see you walking into his room. I see you laughing with him while our daughter colored a card for you. I see you pressing your body into someone else while telling me you're too tired to talk. Dana broke. Her shoulders heaved, and the sound that came from her throat was something close to an animal's whimper. She covered her face, sobbing, sinking into herself. I didn't move. I didn't console her. Because for the first time, she had to sit with what she'd done. Fully. Honestly. I don't want a divorce, she said through tears. But I'll sign the papers if that's what you need. I want to try. I'll do anything. Counseling. Honesty. A tracker on my phone. I'll give you every password. I'll sleep on the floor if I have to. I stared at her. I want you to understand something, I said. This wasn't just cheating. It was theft. You stole our trust. Our intimacy. Our safety. You made our home into a lie. She looked up, red-eyed. Do you still love me? I don't know. Her breath hitched. I loved who you were, I said. But I don't know who you are now. She nodded slowly. That's fair. Another silence stretched between us, this one calmer. Like the aftermath of a storm, with broken branches and flooded streets, but no more thunder. I'm going to stay in the guest room, she said. For however long. Until you decide. I'll help with the kids. I'll cook. Clean. I'll try to earn back something I never should have risked. I didn't stop her. Later that night, I sat alone in our bedroom. My bedroom now? I opened the drawer where I'd hidden the divorce papers I printed last week. They sat there, and signed, crisp and official. I closed the drawer. Not tonight. Down the hall, I heard her crying again. But I didn't move. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how many more nights would pass before I could look at her and not see someone else's hands on her skin. Trust dies slowly. But sometimes, forgiveness dies faster. It's been 13 days since Dana came home. 13 days of tiptoeing. Of cautious hellos and too long silences. Of breakfasts made by a woman trying to pretend she still lives here and a man pretending not to feel every crack in the foundation beneath them. The guest room door closes softly every night. I hear it, like clockwork. And every morning, it opens again just before the kids wake up, like she's trying to realign with routine, as if that could erase the fracture. But some things don't just heal with time. They scar. Max has stopped asking questions. He sees everything, that boy. Too much, probably. He hasn't said a word to Dana longer than 5 sentences. Not in anger. Just detachment. Ellie, on the other hand, doesn't seem to notice the storm. Or maybe she does and clings harder to the version of her mother that used to tuck her in without guilt. The truth is, I don't know if we're surviving or just refusing to drown. The divorce papers still sit in the drawer by my nightstand. I've opened it every night for a week. Looked at them. Read the words again. Petitioner, respondent. Dissolution of marriage. Cold. Formal. Final. My signature line remains blank. And I keep asking myself, is that hesitation? Weakness? Or something else? Last Friday, Dana came home early from the grocery store. I was sitting on the back porch, watching the last of summer bleed out of the leaves. She stepped outside, barefoot, holding 2 iced teas. I made yours without lemon, she said. I didn't take it at first. Then I did. She sat beside me, but not too close. Do you want to know where I am? She asked after a while. Emotionally, I mean. I stared at the trees. She took my silence as permission. I'm here, but I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm not waiting on forgiveness. I'm just trying to prove, in whatever small ways I can, that I still care, that I still want this, even if I don't deserve it." I finally looked at her. "You're right. You don't deserve it." She nodded. "I know." More silence. "Why didn't you fight harder for us before you cheated?" I asked. She looked down at her hands, the faintest tremor running through them. "I didn't think I mattered enough to be worth the fight. And now, I know I didn't give you the chance to prove me wrong." That struck something in me. Something bitter. Something true. The thing is, Dana wasn't wrong about one thing. I was distracted. I was buried in work and bills and fatherhood. But I never stopped loving her. I just forgot to show it. And she stopped looking for it from me and found it in someone else. I don't excuse that, but I understand how it happened. Understanding doesn't mean acceptance, though. It doesn't rebuild trust. That night, after the kids went to sleep, she came to my door. "I don't expect anything," she said softly. "But if I ever meant something to you, can you just talk to me? As a person, not your wife. Just a person." I let her in. We talked for 3 hours. Not about the affair. Not even about the marriage. We talked about music. About the movie Ellie loved and why Max was suddenly obsessed with origami. About our old college road trips. About how the coffee at the new place down the street sucks. She laughed. So did I. It was the first time in weeks we saw each other without armor. She left at midnight. I didn't ask her to stay, and she didn't try. The next morning, I opened the drawer again. The divorce papers stared up at me, just as quiet as always. I didn't sign. Not yet. That doesn't mean we're healing. It doesn't mean we'll make it. It just means I'm not ready to end the book while I'm still stuck rereading the same chapter. Sometimes, love doesn't survive betrayal. Sometimes, it rebuilds itself into something entirely new, stranger, but no less real. We're not fixed. We're not even close. But we're talking. And for now, that's the thread I'm holding on to. If you're reading this because you're going through something similar, if you're sitting in the same kind of broken room wondering what the hell happens next, I don't have the answer for you. Only this. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to stay. You are allowed to change your mind. There is no script for surviving betrayal. Only choices. Small ones. Honest ones. Ones that cost you something. And whether or not Dana and I make it, at least now, I know I fought for the truth. Even when it burned.